Live from Rock Solid Studios in Granite Falls, it's time for MinneZona Sports, live with DJ Matty C. and Paul the Shield Vold.
And this is MinneZona Sports Live. I'm your host, DJ Matty C., a.k.a. Matt Callahan, a.k.a. Matty C., a.k.a. Callie, etc., etc., etc. And this is MinneZona Sports Live, and we welcome our co-host, one of the best, Paul the Shield Vold. Voldy, how are we feeling?
I am feeling fantastic. Great to be back with you guys once again. And I'm just super excited to be here right now.
And you can feel your arms, right? I just want to double check.
Yes, I can definitely feel my arms right now.
Because back at the old show, the Sports Zone, which we had at SMSU, Voldy, we got so excited for one. He got so excited for one show, he couldn't feel his arms. I mean, it was that good. It was that good, people. So. But yeah, this is MinneZona Sports Live, and whether you're watching live or you're watching a little later, we welcome you. We thank you so much for the likes on the socials medias, as Voldy likes to say, and it looks like we already got comments going. I mean, we're starting off on the right foot here.
Love it.
Amber
Thanks,
Volkman says,
appreciate
"Hey guys,
it.
Hey Amber, how we doing?" And then Cole Munson says, "Is that a Redskins jersey?" Is that
absolutely
Keenum's Keepers, baby?
Case Keenum, baby.
You gotta love it. You gotta love it. And then also our producer is the Kerf Doctor, Dylan Kerfman.
Well, thank you very kindly, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Delighted to be here. And just so you know, we've got a lot of people joining us here. 17 people tuning in. So thank you, everyone, for joining us.
I mean, this is huge.
7
this
likes. Holy cow.
This is great. So, without further ado, I mean, with all the people tuning in right now, comment away. If you guys have stuff you want to talk about, go right ahead. But we're going to start things off here with a new segment that we put together. Okay, on the old show we didn't have this, but this is a new segment called Tater Tot Hot Take. Okay, and we have to give thanks to the Shield's wife, Sarah Vold, for coming up with the name for this segment. I mean, it's just, what a great name, Voldy, honestly.
Absolutely. We got to give all the credit to the missus for the title of the segment, Tater Tot Hot Take, just because of the fact that we were sitting down at a local establishment thinking of a name for this kind of segment, and, you know, with it being the Minnesota sports theme that we have for the show, she thought, why not Tater Tot Hot Take? It's perfect. Absolutely perfect.
Fantastic. I mean, I might have to have a tater tots after the show. I mean, it's that good. Okay. So basically what Tater Tot Hot Take is, we're going to go through a couple of topics for everyone. It's all Minnesota sports topics. So we're going to roll through them. And then once I give you the topic, people comment away. We'll have it coming for you here in a second. Voldy will give his thoughts. I'll give my thoughts. So let's give you a little video reel here to show you what we're talking about.
Fresh out of the oven, it's Tater Tot Hot Take.
Man, I was getting really into that. I'm sorry. That was just great music. I mean, it's a great time, okay? All right, let's get things going here, okay? We're going to Dinkytown now. We're talking about the U of M. We're talking about the Gophers, the Rodents. You know, the Golden Gopher football team had one heck of a season, Voldy. And in the final AP poll ranking, they finished number 10, okay? That's their best finish since 1962. So they beat Auburn in the Outback Bowl to finish out the season. I mean, what are your thoughts on the Gophers season and what P.J. Fleck has done? And what do you see, having this momentum going into the future here, Voldy?
I think this season was one of those seasons you're going to look back at the Gopher football program this is what launched them into the national scene. Up until this point, this being, you know, the first few years of the early P.J. Fleck era, this was probably, if not last season, this season where it's all P.J. Fleck guys on the roster. all recruited from, by PJ Fleck and his staff. You get guys coming in this year that had a little bit of momentum last year, finishing off a season that saw some good success. And now going into the fact that this year, early on in the year, there were a fair amount of expectations, a lot of tight games. As classic Minnesota sports fans, we were waiting for the other shoe to drop. Yes, Alex Kirkland, they definitely wanted Bama. They got it.
They really did.
Bama. Yeah. They got the other team. They got the Auburn Tigers, which they did beat. So it was fantastic. But looking at how the season turned out overall, I mean, you couldn't ask for a better finish. Sure, they wanted to play in the in the college football playoff, but getting a quality bowl game like they did, the Outback Bowl, which is one of those next New Year's Day games that always gets a lot of great recognition, and going up against a program like Auburn that always is never a team you want to sleep on overall. That's always in the national spotlight. Is certainly one that the Gophers will definitely be very proud of. The fact that they are able to climb their way through the national rankings and be able to finish in the top 10 at the end of the season, where basically nobody had Minnesota going as far as they did, not even in the Big Ten or even just in the national polls as well.
Right. And the one thing I want to bring up too is that when they played Auburn, I was a little skeptical. I was kind of like, we're taking on an SEC team, or the Gophers are taking on an SEC team, and this Auburn team beat Alabama.
Okay? They did.
They beat Alabama. So I'm like, this is going to be tough, and we'll see how it goes. But what this Gopher football team has done, Voldy, is they've shown people, they've got people in Minneapolis and St. Paul excited. I mean, I've never seen so many people excited for the Gophers. I mean, all these close games they had, Voldy, I mean, South Dakota State, 28-21. Fresno State, they went into 2 overtimes, 38-35. I mean, the list goes on here. And they beat the key victory, and the Kerf doctor can attest to this too. We watched that game against Penn State. And, I mean, this was the win that they needed to set them over the top. And that's what happened. And they definitely deserve that final ranking of number 10. Even though, yes, they did lose to Wisconsin, they did lose to Iowa. But the big thing about this is that people are taking note of Minnesota right now. The Golden Gophers and PJ Fleck. I mean, the whole college is buzzing about this team now, and it's great to see. It's absolutely great to see. And I think in the future, I look at it, and I believe that they're going to be up there with the Wisconsins. Ohio State. Well, maybe Ohio State's a little higher up there, but we'll see what happens as Fleck keeps getting recruits in. I mean, he has done a phenomenal job of recruiting. And one thing I'll say about people that like to rip BJ Fleck, there's like, oh, he's just a rah-rah guy. He is not just a rah-rah guy. This guy gets results. And we've seen it.
Absolutely.
We've seen it. And I think, it's just a sign of good things to come. And the Outback Bowl was something that I was very impressed with. I watched the whole game. Tanner Morgan, I mean, fantastic. Tyler Johnson, Rashad Bateman. I tell you what, that is a tandem right there. Okay.
Absolutely. You forget about the fact, too, that Tanner Morgan wasn't even going to start the year.
Yep.
Zach Annexstad was supposed to be the starting quarterback. He gets hurt, and then everybody's just like, all right, now we got to go with Tanner Morgan. Well, what's going to happen with that? Not only did he exceed expectations, he finished as one of the top 10 passing, if not one of the top 5 passers in the entire nation this past year for the Gophers, in leading them overall. And, we were talking about how the fact that results that PJ Fleck gets, let's not forget, it wasn't that long ago that he took a fledgling team, Western Michigan, out of complete, obscurity in the MAC conference, and took them all the way to a BCS bowl game, undefeated, and with an undefeated season right before he took the job with the Gophers.
Right, and I think they were like 1-11, like you were talking about it. And we got a question right here. You guys think Tyler Johnson's going to get drafted this year? Oh, 100%. 100%.
Absolutely. Fellow Paul right there, Paul Kirkland with the shout out. I definitely think Tyler Johnson's going to get drafted. I think this year was definitely the breakout year for him to improve his draft stock. A lot of people are talking about it as of now. Haven't seen any of the national spotlight, but that's perfectly all right.
Right.
Here in the next couple of months, we'll probably hear a little bit more about that draft stock going up for Tyler Johnson. Who knows? Maybe he'd fall his way. Don't have to travel very far, and maybe find his way back into Minnesota uniform wearing purple and gold instead of maroon and gold.
I mean, Diggs, Thielen, Johnson. Just think about that. And another Johnson, BC Johnson, too. I mean, we got two Johnsons on there.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's huge. So, but yeah, I think, there's been talk that first round, late first round, second round. But, I honestly think that he is a first-round talent. I'm not trying to be biased, but this guy, I've never seen a kid work that hard to get to where he is right now. So the Gophers have done fantastic. We got another question here. How many years, Peter Farley, shout out to Peter, how many years before a more prominent program lures PJ Fleck? I think it'll be a while. I think the big thing is that they got the extension, and I think that's the big thing that we have here. And shout out to Rachel. Welcome back, boys. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. But yeah, I agree. I think they're going to extend him, or they already did. But
yes,
the thing is that I think it'll be a while. But I think he loves it here. The fans love him here. I'd say hold on to him.
I certainly hope so too. It's going to have to be one of the big ones, one of the like the Ohio States, the big boys down the SEC. If Nick Saban ever decides to leave, one of those big, the top two conferences. We always talk about the Power Five conferences. We know it's either going to be the ACC, one of those big guys, or the SEC. That's going to be luring away some of these other coaches. Maybe a USC of sorts to try to dig them out of the cellar of the Pac-12.
Well,
it's going to be a while. We'll have to see how the next couple of years turn out for the Gophers.
I agree. All right, so let's move on to our next hot take for our Tater Tot hot take. So the next one I got for you, Voldy, is Hockey Day, Minnesota. You are a huge hockey fan, so we wanted to get into this. It was a really chilly day, to say the least. The great state of Minnesota, the hockey fans were united. They had 6 outdoor games. The U of M women's hockey team defeated Ohio State 2-1. And then the Wild on Minnesota Hockey Day, even though a couple days ago the Wild had a tough loss, they beat down the Dallas Stars. And we put it in quotations because it used to be the Minnesota North Stars, but that's another story for a different time. How special is Hockey Day, Minnesota, to you, Voldy, and what are your thoughts on the Wild's beatdown of the Stars?
Well, I always certainly enjoy Hockey Day, Minnesota, even though, the last couple of years have been a little tough to watch with me living out in South Dakota, but now being back in Minnesota in an area where hockey is, it's talked about a little bit more, which, still catches me by surprise by the fact of, people talking about hockey so much. But, I always enjoyed it, watching high school games from sun up to sundown of, even games that were going on the night before and even into, the Saturday with all the games going on. Watching the Gophers certainly was fun to watch. At least the women's team was playing against Ohio State. They picked up a win. I know a couple girls from each team for Ohio State and also the U of M that played that day. And also seeing the Minnesota Wild pick up a nice win, who have been kind of fledgling as of late.
Yeah.
That beat down, to say the least, of the Dallas Stars, who were one of the teams that was going to be looking to make a little bit of noise this season. And, well, they've kind of underwhelmed with expectations. But to put up a 7-0 win against the Dallas Stars, that was just fantastic to watch.
Yeah, and a lot of things that are in play here, too, is that the Wild, no one really expected much from the Wild this year. You look at what type of team they are now. is, they've definitely lost. I mean, Mikhail Granlund, is one guy that I know that they miss, but there's a lot of young guys. Donato, Fiala. These guys have been stepping up as of late, but, they take one step forward and then they take two steps back. And I think, but we've expected that from this year. A lot of the Minnesota Wild fans look at this and they say, well, we got to see what happens here. We fired our GM after 1 year because Fenton, just apparently wasn't well liked in the building and stuff like that. So, in all honesty, seeing them beat down the Stars 7-0 is a sight to see, especially when they took our name originally and brought it down to Dallas. But again, another story for a different time. But with Hockey Day, it's one of those things where you play outdoors, and I think the one thing about hockey is like whenever you're outside, you're skating around, you're having fun with your friends. This is the state of hockey, and all the coverage that's for it, and then people are willing to go out and -1 degree weather, -2. Things like that. So, it's just crazy. And then we also have someone saying hi to her son. So,
hi, Mom.
So, yeah, you got to love that. But, Hockey Day is something really special. So here is Mary Callan. Dad and I are wondering what your early take is on the Super Bowl matchup. Oh, man. I think that's for next week, but I can give you a little something here, Mom and Dad. Defense wins championships. Okay, defense wins championships, and I look at the 49ers defense, and I'll just give a quick take here because we want to move on to our Tater Tot hot take. But I think the 49ers defense has shown that they can hang with anybody. They showed it to the Vikings. They showed it to the Packers. The new challenge is taking on Patrick Mahomes. So I'm leaning towards the 49ers, but you'll find out next week. So.
Yeah, and not to break up the rhythm here, gentlemen, too. Just want to shout out to everyone that's been tuning into the stream. 24 people watching right now.
Oh, yeah.
And even if you're watching after the fact, to appreciate that as well. So keep those comments coming, everybody. And, yeah, keep up the good work, you two.
Yeah, we're rolling. All right, absolutely. So the final Tater Tot hot take topic I have for you, Voldy, and I think this one's coming here. But actually, before we move on, what is Guerin going to want from Blake Hawker? This guy is an eBay genius. Okay, if you could pull that quick right up again, if you can, Cuff Doctor, I could have missed it there. But yeah, okay. Guerin going to want from the Pens for Zucks, or do we believe for prospects, or beef up our 1 second line, or should we hold on to Zucker? Voldy, what do you think? Should the Wild hold on to Zucker?
I think maybe now would be a good time while the stock is still high on Jason Zucker. Maybe try to move on from him. The Wild are in a very difficult situation. They've got those dead contracts, unfortunately, with Zach Parise and also with Ryan Suter as well, who've been, not to say underwhelming the last couple of years, but as they've gotten older, of course, the numbers are going to go down. And you also throw in the fact Eric Stahl's been playing really well this year for the Wild. I think it might be time for the Wild to move on from Jason Zucker, just to throw it out. And as for trying to beef up, the second line or what have you, I think it would be great. You throw in a couple guys, maybe try to go after I couldn't name a significant Pens player that isn't Sidney Crosby and also the likes of Evgeny Malkin off the top of my head. But there are some decent young guys that they've got there in Pittsburgh that, they do have a little bit of experience playing in the postseason, and also some Stanley Cups to their credit as of late the last few years. Should be, very interesting to see how Bill Guerin kind of goes for things once the trade deadline gets nearer.
Right, exactly. And I think Zucker, you look at what he's done with the Wild, we appreciate everything he's done, but I think if the Wild are to move forward, I think that's what's going to happen, unfortunately. But we're going to have to see what happens. But shout out to all the people saying glad to have you guys back. I believe Jimbo Vold threw out saying hey and saying welcome back. Jake Leiter, as he likes to say, Lottie frickin' da, as Chris Farley. Shout out to Jake, and then my boy Joey Geske. Appreciate you tuning in as well. So we got to get to this next topic because this is our final topic for Tater Tot Hot Take, and it's called Donaldson's Done Deal. The Twins have finally spent money. It's amazing. I can't believe it. Third baseman Josh Donaldson agreed to a 4-year deal, $92 million. Whew, that's a lot of money. There's no doubt, a lot of change in there. There's no doubt that, just bear with me here. This lineup, okay? Jorge Polanco, Josh Donaldson, Nelson Cruz, Miguel Sano, Max Kepler, Mitch Garver, Luis Arraez, Eddie Rosario, and Byron Buxton. Oh, I mean, that is a lethal lineup, okay? But with that being said, Voldy, is it still concerning that the Wild still haven't landed an ace on their pitching staff?
I find it a little bit concerning early on, but let's bring up the fact that this is something I've been talking about the last few years. The Twins did sign the likes of Rich Hill and Homer Bailey. Sure, they're on the bad side of 30, and what they're looking at is some more experience for some of the young arms that are going to be coming up.
Yep.
But let's not forget, 2-3 years ago, Rich Hill was a few votes away from winning the National League Cy Young when he was with the Los Angeles Dodgers in the midst of those World Series runs. And I think that's going to be a huge benefit. We'll have to wait to see how the legalities, I should say, fall out from that incident at the Patriots game earlier this year. That's a whole nother topic for another day. But I like the fact that they did bring in some older arms. They did bring Alex Avila in as well, a veteran catcher. He's definitely on the backside of what have you with his career. But he was definitely one of those strong candidates that's, Gold Glove worthy, that's had, he's had some great pop in his bat and knows how to handle a pitching staff, which is going to play to the benefit of Mitch Garver as well.
Yep.
That way they can, trade some secrets as well to handling this pitching staff a little bit better when you throw in the likes of Dobnak and even you throw out the guys like Devin Smeltzer who have been up and down with the team the last season or so. Maybe they try to solidify themselves in the rotation.
Yeah, and you look at the deal. I mean, for me, I've always been very, very critical of the Pohlads. And the big thing is that they finally caved in. And I want to see their reaction to when when they're like, hey, so we got to give them this much money. And Jim Pohlad's like, I don't know if we should do but in this instance, they were finally forced to spend some money on guys that are that they could use and they could get over the hump. I mean, the big thing is that they just can't get by the Yankees. Do we know why? I don't know. That's the thing. I think it's just kind of the psyche and things like that. But you look at this lineup, it's lethal. The thing is, can the pitching hold up? That's the big news about it. Is like, can this pitching staff hold up? I know they signed Hill, like you were saying. I like what I'm hearing. I didn't know that about the Cy Young in the National League. So I mean, that's something that I'm kind of like, okay, I'm feeling a little better about. I mean, you have Barrios back. I mean, that's great. Dobnak, the Uber driver guy. I mean, we could fit him. Trevor May has been up and down in relief pitching, but I feel like they need to land somebody. Hopefully they can make a trade here or there to do that. But I think this Donaldson sighting is fantastic. And I think the big thing is that a lot of the zoners, I think, would agree that it's surprising because the Twins never get a free agent. They never get a high-profile free agent, and they did. And hopefully this is the start of the Twins being, up there in the maybe the World Series. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. You know, if Nelson Cruz can do what he did last year, if Sano can stay healthy, I mean, the big thing is Buxton staying healthy too as well. So I look at this and I say if we can maybe outscore everybody, man, we might have games like 15 to 10 or something like that. I mean, the Bomba squad will be going off. So I think that's just going to be kind of the big thing with the Twins is that, I mean, this team is going to be legit. I mean, there's no doubts about it. The thing is can you get over the hump against the Yankees? And I think that's kind of almost the key in the way. But I don't know. What do you think, Voldy? If you look at the Yankees right now, do you think the Twins possibly at this point, with everything that they have, they can finally get past them if they face them in the playoffs?
Well, as it currently stands right now, we don't know what the pitching rotation is going to be. The bullpen's all out of sorts.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be one of those series, unfortunately, for the Twins where they're going to have to win 15-12, 12-10 or something like that with the amount of home runs and the power of the lineup as well.
Right.
And to go back a little bit as well with the Donaldson deal, you putting him in that 2 spot like you kind of generated with the lineup, that's been the spot for him. When he won the American League MVP back in 2015, I think it was, he was batting in the 2 spot for Toronto. And that was a very similar lineup, a lot of power in the lineup. And he's also a very plus defender as well. So that's going to help out the Twins over at third base with the defense overall. But as it currently stands right now, I don't know if I can make a bold prediction or not to say the Twins would get past the Yankees. Maybe if it was just good old-fashioned home run derby that they would, once you get past 2 or 3 guys for the Yankees and, the whole lineup for the Twins can go out of the ballpark. But as it currently stands, I don't think I can feel very comfortable making any assumptions with the Twins right now.
So we just got a comment here from our guy Cole Munson. Over or under 300 home runs for the Twins this year, Voldy? It's a great question.
That is a great question. I would say I would take the under. The under by about 15 to 20. So about 280 or so. Just continue to blow that home run record out of the sky. Yeah,
I'm going to go 290. I think it'll just be a bit under, but I think it's going to be enough to be like, hey, check this out. We got Rosario. I mean, just the power hitting. I mean, Polanco had a great year too. I mean, Polanco, Donaldson's just going to add more to the firepower. Cruz, of course, Sano, Garver, even Kepler. I mean, the list goes on and on. I mean, it's just that good. It's just that good of a lineup. And, I know you can't make a prediction yet, obviously. We're not even into spring training. But I just look at this, and it's like, this is what we need. So, anyway, we got another comment here. Kristen Weber and I miss you guys. Double Trouble is proud of you guys. Appreciate the love, Double Trouble.
Double Trouble.
Could we get them back? I don't know. Could we do a reunion thing here? We'll figure it out.
Shout out to Halsey for tuning in tonight.
What up?
All right.
What up? Appreciate all the comments. I mean, this is going great. Curve Doctor, how are the comments going right now?
Oh, my gosh. We're just being overwhelmed with comments here, but a lot of great comments.
Yeah, just pick and choose.
Pick and choose. You're right. I know we can't get to everyone, and I apologize if we don't. Okay. But thank you, 27 folks right now on the live stream. Who knows who will be watching after the fact.
Fantastic. I love it.
Just appreciate it as well.
So anyway, give your thoughts on what you guys think of the Donaldson deal. If you like it, if you don't like it, ask away. So anyway, I think we need to move on to, first of all, great Tater Tot Hot Take. Great first segment.
Absolutely.
Great job. I think, and again, props to Sarah Vold. Love the name. I think this is, we're going to be doing this every day. Well, I mean, every Wednesday. I wish I could do it every day, but, it is what it is. So anyway, we're going to move on to a new segment. This is kind of my segment here. This is called Callahan's School of Logic. And what I'm going to talk about today is everyone in the most controversial quarterback in Minnesota, the one and only Kirk Cousins, a.k.a. Kirky. Let's go. So anyway, let's get into Callahan's School of Logic with this little video here.
Class is in session. You're enrolled in Callahan's School of Logic.
All right. Everyone settle down. Take your seats. Make sure you have a pen, you have a pencil, whatever you need, okay? So today we're going to talk about the one and only Kirk Cousins, okay? Kirk Cousins signed a 3-year deal with the Vikings, okay? Worth a lot of money, a lot of guaranteed money. And a lot of people, including the national media here, okay? The national media has labeled Kirk Cousins as a guy that they like to put the blame on a lot. And I don't know if it's rightfully so. I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like it is a little unfair to put every loss on Kirk Cousins, okay? So when you're taking notes here, I want you guys to write down a couple notes, okay? In 2018, Kirk Cousins had 30 touchdowns to 10 interceptions, okay? Just think about that for a second. 30 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. That's not bad. I mean, you look at his stats through this year. 26 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, okay? Now, I know the stat, the Monday Night Football stat. He's 0-9 against at Monday Night Football. He's not very good against teams that have winning records, all that garbage, okay? Now, last time I checked, football is a team sport, correct? And the fact of the matter is that all this criticism with Kirk Cousins is, I feel, a little unfair. And a lot of people just say, well, Kirk does this. Kirk, he can't win the big game. Kirk can't do any of this. Let me tell you something here, okay? When the Vikings played the 49ers in the playoffs, he was sacked 6 times. Okay. When we played the Packers, he was sacked 5 times, and most of those were to Zadarius Smith. Okay. Now, whenever you're watching a Vikings game, and you see sometimes Kirk gets a little jittery in the pocket, and when he gets out of the pocket, you're like, oh gosh, he's either getting sacked or he's going to throw an errant pass. But Kirk isn't the one that goes out of the pocket here, people. He doesn't go out of the pocket. He's an in-pocket quarterback, okay? Now, I feel like a lot of these games can't be on Kirk. The Week 2 game against Green Bay, sure. Okay, you can throw that interception. You can throw that one on Kirk. He shouldn't have thrown that. I mean, double coverage, Diggs wasn't open. We understand. But the one thing I saw in the playoffs this year was when Kirk Cousins the Vikings taking on the Saints. The Vikings get the ball in OT. And I tell you, I've never seen Kirk Cousins take control of that. Honestly, I've never seen someone take control of a drive and go down and score against the hated Aints. Another story for a different time with the Aints, but I'm talking about Kirk Cousins here, okay? So he goes down, he throws a bomb to Thielen. Thielen grabs it, and remember, backtracking here, but a lot of people said, oh, he's calling out, Thielen was called out Cousins after the Bears game, and, Diggs is not happy with him and stuff, and then Kirk apologized. This doesn't matter, okay? It just doesn't matter when it comes to, what Thielen said. He's talking about the whole offense, okay? I mean, this is just so annoying to me. It's like this guy keeps getting criticized for, throwing all these, saying like, oh, well, he can't win the big game and all this garbage. No, the thing is that when Adam Thielen said that, and I quote, and he, I'm paraphrasing here, but he did say our passing needs to be better, stuff like that. That means the whole offensive line needs to block. Kirk needs to make better throws, sure, but Kirk Cousins is more expensive Tony Romo. Okay, that's fair. I would say that's a fair assessment. I mean, Tony Romo has won big games too, but I do agree with you on that, Blake. But the one thing that really irritates me is that everyone always blames Kirk. It's always Kirk Cousins' fault. It's not always Kirk Cousins' fault, people. It's just not. It's not. So anyway, the moral of the story here, folks, is that we can't always put the blame on Kirk Cousins, okay? We just can't, because it's a team game. The offensive line needs work. We need to add more pieces, but that's all I got to say about it. But here's the thing. It's not Kirk Cousins' fault all the time, okay? That's how I think. Voldy, what do you think? And real quick here.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you 100%. But with Kirk Cousins being the quarterback, it's the position comes along with the job. You're going to get nothing but criticism from the day that you step into the pocket, and it is what it is. Yep. And nationally, of course, nobody wants to give Minnesota a lot of credit for a lot of things. A lot of money going into Kirk Cousins.
Yep.
Up until, of course, this is year 2. Let's not forget that. This is year 2 of the Kirk Cousins experiment in Minnesota. Last year was how it ended up, and this year was a great step in the right direction with the numbers, with the production, more production in the offense, beating the Saints in the playoffs, and making it to the divisional round to help out the franchise a little bit more, especially for Coach Zimmer too.
Yep.
It's going to be interesting to see how next year goes into it with another new offensive coordinator.
Yeah, and I know there's been a lot of talk. I don't think Pat Shurmur's coming back because he's already offensive coordinator to the Broncos now. So I think, you got to look. I mean, the Kubiaks are still there, so you kind of look at that saying, well, do you take Clint or do you take Gary? I mean, unless Gary wants to stay as a offensive assistant, seeing what he's usually up in the box, watching over. But we'll see what happens. I mean, Uncle North is still available. I don't know if that might be but that's another story for another time. But anyway, we welcome you back. If we lost you for a second there, I mean, you guys have been fantastic because I think you overloaded our Facebook Live system. I mean, the Kerf Doctor got us back online, so we're good to go.
Absolutely. Thanks for crashing Facebook. It's a great problem. I'm going to call Mark right away, and we're gonna get this worked out.
Yeah, get on that right away. Yeah. All right. So I think we need to move on to our your favorite segment, Voldy. My favorite segment. Everybody's favorite segment. Check this out if you don't know what I mean.
It's time for everyone's favorite segment, Absurd or Approved.
All right, Voldy, why don't you rattle them off for us, please?
All right, we're going to start off here with a story out of the newly formed XFL. Former NFL wide receiver Chad Ochocinco, Chad Johnson, was scheduled to try out for the XFL at this position as a kicker. But according to sources on Monday for a tryout, Chad Johnson did not show up, unfortunately. Age 42, just turned 42 just a couple of weeks ago. He was set to, try out along with a number of kickers as the XFL did wrap up its first training camp just this week alone. And they are actually only a couple of weeks away because they're going to start playing right after the Super Bowl. But my question to you, DJ Matty C, absurd or approved, Chad Johnson trying to make it back in football as a kicker?
I'm so glad this segment is back. It gives a stamp of approval, Voldy. I don't want to go. I used to give a really hard, stamp of approval, but I have to watch it because this table isn't as sturdy as the one in Marshall there. But anyway, it gets my stamp of approval. I mean, Chad Ochocinco. I mean, who doesn't love Chad Ochocinco? But the thing is it might be a little absurd, is that he skipped the tryout. I mean, my question is, does he think he's that good? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Chad Ochocinco is something else, but if he gets a job, great. I mean, I'll probably watch the XFL, but not maybe as religiously as I do the NFL. But I mean, nonetheless, it gets my stamp of approval, and I assume it does for you as well, Voldy.
Absolutely. I find this more humorous than anything. Chad Johnson trying to keep himself in the headlines any way possible. I mean, he is a very big soccer fan, so apparently him, with the footwork is definitely no problem for him. It'd be very interesting to see how, accurate or whatever he would be as a kicker. I mean, he's kicked extra points before during the preseason or what have you, done some kickoffs, but in an actual game situation, that would be a very interesting situation. Oh, a big shout out as well to Victor Austin for tuning in tonight, one of my good hometown high school buddies. And that's a very interesting proposal for Chad Johnson. Also, sticking with the kicking game here today, the NFL just decides to keep on changing the rules here with our next story, and it just so happens to be for the Pro Bowl coming up here on Sunday, as this kind of relates towards the fact that the NFL wants nothing to do with kickoffs or nothing to do with kickers in general scoring points. So here's an interesting rule that they're going to be kind of working out in the Pro Bowl, maybe looking towards next season. So these are options after a successful field goal or try attempt by a team on offense. The scoring team has the following options. Team A, we'll call the scoring team, may elect to give the Team B the ball at the 25-yard line, with it being 1st and 10, beginning a new series of downs. That's instead of like an onside kick or things of that sort. Or Team A may elect to take the ball at their own 25-yard line at 4th and 15. So that's a very interesting one.
Yeah.
And here's some more. This is option 2A. If Team A is successful, the making a first down, Team A will maintain possession and a new series of downs and will continue as normal. Or if Team A, team that may elected to kick, quote unquote, kick the ball, is unsuccessful in making a first down, the results will be a turnover on downs, and Team B will take possession at the dead ball spot. So, absurd or approved, DJ Matty C, the NFL continuing to try to make kicking and also kickers obsolete.
Absurd, because I look at this and they keep changing everything. I mean, it started with the crybaby Aints fans with the pass interference, and then it's been, ever since then, I feel it's just been ramping up. Oh, we got to change this. Oh, we got to change that. We got to change. Just relax. My gosh. I mean, you look at all these rule changes, and it's just like, I mean, are we just going to have everything electronically now? We're just going to go to New York with every call. Like, I understand that. I understand it was an egregious call with the Saints and the Rams back last year. But you look at them trying to change. I mean, I guess it's not really absurd trying it in the Pro Bowl, seeing how it works. But I feel like if they keep doing it, it's just going to be so complicated for everybody. And I just look at this as a whole, and I don't like it. So I don't know. I give it absurd. What do you think, Voldy?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you at that as well, with it being absurd, just because the amount of rule changes that goes season by season, nobody knows what to expect from one year to another, especially for the kicking game and for head coaches trying to come up with situations late in games or trying to get the ball back as they're down by a score or two to try to figure out how am I going to go about trying to get the ball back. And, the success of onside kicks has definitely dropped the last few years. In fact, one stat that's grown through the 2017 season, and of course the historic rate was 21%. Through the 2017 season, that dropped down to 7.7% in 2018, but it did go up slightly though to 12.9% in 2019. I mean, overall, it's the NFL keeps changing things, challenging, pass interference calls, even though nobody knows how that's going to ever work again. Just the fact they'll start making everything challengeable, yet not challengeable all at the same time. It's just confusing overall. But I definitely give it absurd as well.
Gotcha.
Kind of kind of moving on here, as yesterday the announcement of the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame did come out, and 2 new members going to Cooperstown. Longtime New York Yankee captain and shortstop Derek Jeter was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame, and in his final year in the ballot, former Colorado Rocky, Montreal Expos, St. Louis Cardinal as well, Larry Walker, was able to finally get into the door of Cooperstown. Derek Jeter appeared on 396 of 397 ballots, 99.7% not unanimous, just falling behind his teammate Mariano Rivera from last year as the only player to be a unanimous selection, and finishing just ahead of Ken Griffey Jr. from a couple years ago, who finished at 99.3%. Larry Walker as well finally snuck in the door. Needed, I believe it was 76% to get into the 75% actually to get in. Was just 6 votes ahead of that tally to get into the Hall of Fame.
Wow.
Absurd. The fact that Derek Jeter wasn't a unanimous selection as well, and just your thoughts on that.
Well, I think it's absurd. I mean, Derek Jeter is like one of the best. I mean, he was probably the face of baseball for a long time. So, first of all, stamp of approval that he got, I mean, first ballot 100%. But that one vote, it's just kind of like, what are you thinking? Like, it's Derek Jeter. I mean, look at the guy's stats. I mean, he's dated all these supermodels. I mean, this guy is just an American hero almost. Like, I mean, I don't understand what went into the thinking of, I mean, it's absurd 100% that it wasn't unanimous. I mean, but it doesn't matter. He's in the Hall of Fame. Stamp of approval, even though he's a Yankee. You know, I do have a lot of respect for Derek Jeter. Definitely not his teammate, A-Rod, another story. But again, you know, like, and I'll let the zoners take a look at it, you know, and definitely comment in and say what you think too. But yeah, it's absurd that it wasn't unanimous, but stamp of approval for obviously making it in there. So, Voldy, I assume you thinking the same here?
Nothing but respect as well for Derek Jeter. Even though I'm a Red Sox fan, I can certainly show the amount of respect towards the captain as well. Unanimous selection in everybody's mind, but that one voter is just like, well, I know he's going to get in. Let me go ahead and try to get somebody else, especially with the likes of Curt Schilling, who finished 8th in the ballot, who's probably looking on the backside of his, he's only got a couple years left, but if he'll get in, I think it'll be great. But, that character clause that a lot of baseball writers are throwing against him probably won't see that. Of course, Roger Clemens, Barry Bonds should be in the Hall of Fame, but they're not. But they're on the upswing of things. They saw increases this year, but overall, still a good amount of players on the Hall of Fame ballot that didn't quite get in this year. Omar Vizquel was in his 3rd year. Scott Rowland went up significantly this year as well. Next couple of years should be quite interesting to see how many Hall of Famers, how many guys actually get into the Hall of Fame. Be very, very interesting.
And congratulations to Larry Walker as well. I mean, much deserved. Don't know why it wasn't sooner, but again.
Yeah, a lot of people were just like, sure. I know one guy that was very critical on him was, not the Hall of Fame, but the Hall of, very good. I don't know about Hall of Fame, but I certainly see the respect that, Larry Walker getting into the Hall of Fame, especially the fact that he played a lot of dead years overall with like Montreal when they were pretty good back in the mid-90s, played a lot of down years in Colorado, still put up great numbers though overall.
We just had a quick comment from our good friend Zach Huntley. He's asking, does Bonds or Clemens make it in their final 2 years? What do you think, Voldy?
Absolutely. I certainly hope so, just because of the fact that, their careers, of course, were tainted by steroids or what have you. Yeah. The numbers are still there.
Oh, yeah.
Steroids itself does not, I'm sure it makes you get bigger and whatever. You still have to throw the ball. You still have to hit the ball. That's all eye-hand coordination right there. The numbers are all there. I say, a lot of things have kind of laxed in the last half decade, especially with people's feelings towards steroids. But I think those two definitely get in. If not, at the end of their ballots, maybe down the road, whenever the writers put in the golden era or what have you for baseball, they'll find their way in.
Oh yeah, I agree with that, and I think it's one of those things that. Steroids was such a huge thing, and you look at Bonds, like you said, the numbers are still there. Same thing with Clemens. So I think I think they will. I think eventually, whether it's next year or the year after, we'll see how it goes. But anyway, I think we need to get to a certain segment that is very near and dear to the Shield. And it's a thing called Shield Shoutouts. Check this out.
Shield Shoutouts.
All right, Shield. Rattle them off for us.
All right. First off, that's just fantastic work right there. Getting you ready here for Shield Shoutouts for the first time here on MinneZona Sports Live. We will go out to the Bay Area, and a familiar face for myself and also for New England Patriots fans. That being former Patriots wide receiver Wes Welker, now the wide receiver coach for the San Francisco 49ers, is heading back to the Super Bowl, looking to get himself a Super Bowl ring. NFC champions, letting the likes of former Patriot quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo. Shout out to a Shield shout out goes out to Wes Welker, and just one game away from that Super Bowl ring. Another Shield shout out goes out to the Toronto Blue Jays this past week, and actually late last week, announced that they're going with the new blue uniforms, but it's an old twist on it's a new twist, I should say, on an old favorite. Powder blue uniforms for the Toronto Blue Jays, finally giving the people what they want. With a young team that they bring in with Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Kevin Biggio, even Bo Bichette, this group is going to be looking fresh going into the 2020 season. Shout out to the Toronto Blue Jays for finally bringing back the powder blue uniforms.
Yes.
And absolutely have to send out a special Shield shout out to the National Hockey League for finally coming to their senses and giving the Minnesota Wild the 2021 NHL Winter Classic, New Year's Day 2021, from Target Field. Last time the Wild hosted an outdoor game, I think it went pretty well. Yeah. That being the Stadium Series game in 2016, which I was in attendance for, along with probably some listeners that were also there. It was an electric atmosphere at TCF Bank Stadium to be a part of. Now, they haven't announced the matchup as of quite yet, but here I'm throwing my hat into the ring for the opponent. It has to be, without a doubt, the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah.
Now, here's my logic in this. First off, you're going to get nothing but Winnipeg fans coming down from Canada to Minnesota. Yeah. It's a little bit of a drive, but if we know anything about being in the Midwest, anything within 6 hours is perfectly reasonable to make a drive out of it. A lot of Winnipeg fans come down to XL Energy Center, and I remember in the years before the Jets were even a team, a lot of Winnipeg fans would come down when the likes of Chicago came to town or something like that. And to hear O Canada being played at Target Field for the NHL Winter Classic would be fantastic. It would be an injustice if the NHL didn't make this happen and made it the Wild versus the Winnipeg Jets for the NHL Winter Classic coming up in 2021.
I think Blake agrees with you, Voldy.
Yes, thank you. At least somebody would agree with me in that sentiment. This one, this next Shield shout-out is pretty special because the fact it plays off the fact of this past Major League Baseball season. The Washington Nationals minor league affiliate, the AA affiliate Harrisburg Senators, unveiled a new piece of their uniform, that being the celebrating George Washington with the goggles and the champagne shower. If you read the label on the hat, is on the bottle of the hat, it says 2019. George Washington celebrating the fact that the Nationals won the World Series. That's the new hat that they will be wearing this upcoming season for select games as well as the Washington Nationals AA affiliate Harrisburg Senators get a special Shield shout out. That is most definitely going to be on the list to get here in the very, very near future. I mean, that's just fantastic to see.
Yeah.
And we got one more Shield shout out. I got to give my big Shield shout out to the likes of DJ Matty C and the Kerf Doctor for putting out something as special as this. The fact that, some time ago they approached me about putting out this potential show as well, MinneZona Sports Live. It's been a dream of ours for last few months, and now here we are, a big reality, a big Shield shout out to DJ Matty C and the Kerf Doctor.
Oh, thanks, man. Now I'm complete.
Yeah.
I don't need to do anything more in life.
Right, yeah. I mean, I just feel like, I've gotten a Shield shout out before, a couple times. But there is, I feel like there's always that, one person that really, really wants it. And I think there was a guy by the name of Intern Guy that we missed out on. Unfortunately, we had to let him go because I think he was, in a fight with the Aflac Duck. So I don't know, he is now former Intern Guy. So, I mean, technically we don't need our interns anymore, so. That's just how it is. But Voldy,
that's how it is.
Love the Shield shout-outs. And then also to our zoners. Great first show. Absolutely fantastic. We had a little hiccup with the Facebook Live, but that's on you guys because you guys just took down Facebook. The Kerf Doctor can only do so much with all this, traffic coming in, for gosh sake.
Yeah, right. I can only click so many buttons, and it's a wonderful problem. So, yes, thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
It's really exciting.
Really exciting. So, anyway, without further ado, we want to give you a little snippet of what's to come next week. It's called, it's a new segment. It's called something along the lines of Voldy's Virtues. Why don't you take a look?
He has emerged from the Temple of Wisdom. Gather round for Voldy's Virtues.
Gather around for Voldy's Virtues. I cannot wait for this segment, Voldy. How about you?
Oh, absolutely. I've got some great material already lined up for that, and it should be a great show coming up next week with Voldy's Virtues.
Excellent. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you to all the zoners. Thanks. Shout out Jonathan Miller. Appreciate it. I didn't want to infiltrate your vacation, but we appreciate you tuning in. But hey, this is great. So Voldy, we will see you next week. Can't wait for Voldy's Virtues. Great first show. Thank you to all the zoners. Remember to tune in. If you're going to watch later, check out all the great content we have, all right? And, folks, always remember, keep in the zone.
Holla.